We're back, the Neil Haley Show on the Total Celebrity segment, and I'm excited to welcome the program Zachary Quinto in search of on the History Channel. Zachary, thanks for calling. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, Zachary. I'm going to tell you, I'm one of the biggest Heroes nerds in the world. I loved the show Heroes.
Wow, that's cool.
And I was just a oldie but a goodie. But your character, Sylar, was one of the most frightening villains, I believe, out there. And when it just was an unbelievable, and I'm such a huge Heroes nerd, so I had to bring that up, Zachary. And that character was amazing, wasn't it? With all the mystery surrounding Sylar. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it was well written. I was grateful for that experience. It was really satisfying for me creatively, and then also in a professional way. It really changed things for me moving forward. So I feel grateful and glad I had that opportunity. It was really rewarding for me back then.
Absolutely. And I'm not as bright as you, Zachary, when we talk about specifically Carnegie Mellon, but I got my radio start at Carnegie Mellon at 88.3 WRCT, and then I syndicated to 130 plus stations. So I started there, still am there, still do the education show, Zachary, and love WRCT. Your memories at Carnegie Mellon, that must have been a blast.
Great. Well, you don't have to be smart. You don't have to be smart to be a drama student at Carnegie Mellon. I think that's a common misconception. So, not selling my intelligence short, but my SAT scores were less important than my my monologue at my audition. I had a great time there. I love Carnegie Mellon. I had really rewarding experiences. I grew a lot as a person and as an actor, and I'm always grateful when I'm able to come back there. We were actually back at Carnegie Mellon for an episode of In Search Of, and it was so nice to wander the halls again and to visit with some old teachers and friends from my days many years back when I was a student at Carnegie Mellon.
Were you ever on the radio on 88.3 and went to the studios in the basement ever? No, really?
Actually, now that you say it, it rings a bell, but I don't remember when or why. But it does kind of ring a bell. I remember the basement studios for some reason. Maybe I did some kind of an interview down there.
I'm sure you did. It's a blur for you for sure. Now, In Search Of on History really sounds really interesting because you're investigating UFOs and paranormal mysteries. Let's talk about UFOs. Do you believe in UFOs, Zachary?
I believe that we would be incredibly arrogant to think that we're the only form of intelligent, I use that word loosely, but intelligent life in the universe. I feel like my mind was opened by this exploration, and while we were shooting this episode, actually, those government accounts of unidentified flying objects were released, and there's a significant history of documentation in the Air Force and in government agencies acknowledging that there were encounters with objects that couldn't be identified. So I feel like there's a strong likelihood that we're not alone, but it's a matter of where other extraterrestrial intelligent life might be and how our encounters might unfold with them.
Again, we're talking to Zachary Quinto here on the Neil Haley Show. And Zachary, the premise of the show is based on a show in the 70s. Explain that to us for us.
Yeah, the original series aired in the late 70s, early 80s. It was hosted by Leonard Nimoy, my dear friend, the late, great Leonard Nimoy. And so I think it was, for the producers and my partners in the show, it made sense for them to approach me about stepping into to take over the franchise. And I was really interested in it. Leonard was always very curious. He had a real intellectual appetite even into his later life. And I was inspired by that. So I was grateful for the opportunity to honor that legacy. But at the same time, I wanted to really take the show in a new direction. Leonard was a host in a very traditional way. In a studio, he would welcome audiences in and then present a pre-recorded segment about whatever that particular episode was exploring. I really wanted to be on the ground, in the spirit of Anthony Bourdain and Parts Unknown and his work as a investigative, journalist. I wanted to kind of go and conduct a lot of interviews myself and So I was really lucky that my partners on the show supported that idea, and I got to go all around the world: Australia, Greece, Italy, Morocco, the UK, all over the United States, and have some real adventures. And that was really exciting to me. And I think it gives audiences a point of view and a perspective of coming along for the ride. Having the experiences.
Yeah.
I have the experience, which hopefully is part of the appeal.
And so it was so much fun for that travel. And what other kinds of things are you investigating? Not just UFOs, but other things as well.
No, we do 10 episodes, aliens, superhumans, monsters of the deep, time travel, sinkholes, the lost city of Atlantis, mind control, life after death. There's one I'm missing. But yeah, we explore a lot of different phenomena, a lot of different mysteries, and, come at it from a lot of different perspectives. The format of the show is really a convergence of scientific expertise and human experience. So, we talk to people from all over, who run the gamut of their relationships to these topics. And my job is to present them to audiences and allow audiences to form their own opinions and ideas about what these people bring to bear with their experiences.
So, Zachary, would you say that you had a big learning curve in this, hosting this, compared to, acting in a different way of kind of presenting this to your audience?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, every episode was kind of free form. I mean, I had an idea of who I was talking to and why, but all the conversations that take place on camera, are conversations that are real time between me and the subject. And I did have to learn. It was a real crash course in objectivity, right? And neutrality, and not having, when I was talking to people who had really far-fetched, unbelievable experiences, sometimes it was difficult to suppress my disbelief, but I had to, and that was my job. And so I really learned how to just give them the opportunity to talk and, let audiences form their own opinions about whether or not what they're saying is even remotely possible.
So everyone needs to tune into In Search Of on History on Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. And I appreciate you coming on, Zachary. And again, the Central Catholic connection. I went 1 year to Central, then I graduated from Sarah Catholic. So a lot of kind of parallels. Hopefully that someday we'll meet. Someday we'll meet. I'm sure, for sure, and I hope we do and get a chance to do a television.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. Thanks, Zachary. We're back to the Neil Haley Show on the Total Celebrity segment, and I'm excited to welcome the program, and this is really an interesting interview. I did some research on this guy, all the different shows, but I really believe when we talk about Hallmark Channel, it's such an exciting thing, so I'm excited to welcome the program. So Christopher Polaha. Christopher, thanks for calling. Christopher, let's break the ice the other way now. Let's kind of go really delve into specifically your career. It's a very interesting career, some of the types of parts you played, starting with, John F. Kennedy Jr. and that opportunity to some of the other parts in your career. What do you say, like, in this, how it spanned your career so far in different parts and characters? It's pretty interesting. I was doing a lot of research on it.
Yeah, thanks, man. I've been really fortunate to have a body of work behind me that's kind of been a very interesting. I mean, I've worked really, really, really steadily, and I've been able to provide. I got 3 sons with my wife, and we were able to do this thing with them. But it's also been this kind of low-key, like, nice, consistent, streamlined thing. And I think one theme that all my characters share, which I think had a lot to do with the age I was at the time, was this idea of unfulfilled potential. So You look at John F. Kennedy Jr., and here's this guy that everybody in America was convinced was going to be the savior of the world because he was the president's son and he was a little boy who saluted the coffin. And then he goes and he messes up, like can't pass the bar 3 times in a row and publicly fails. And then he starts a magazine, and then that kind of does well, but not well enough to live in the Condé Nast world, and has to wrap that up. And what's interesting about John was I think that he passed away when he was 39. I think that he was about to run for Senate, and I think he would have run against Hillary Clinton, and I think he would have won. I think he would have been the senator of New York State because people loved him so much, and I do feel like he had a lot to offer. And I wonder if he had been alive, if he would not have been, I think, eventually president, just because of what he represented and how he was able to communicate with people, especially seeing, how things roll out. But as far as like we want how much personality, comes along with that job. If you look at Obama and then now Trump, you look at these people were voted in because they were like, oh, we like this person because he's different
Exactly,
than
yeah.
the status quo. And I think that Kennedy might have been that. But what you saw instead was this life of unfulfilled potential. Like this dude just didn't get a chance to. And then so that was something that struck me. And I was 23 when I played that role.
Yeah.
I was young, and that kind of set the pace for things. And then the next big kind of blip was his role, Baze, in Life Unexpected. Again, you got this guy who was the big star in high school football and was the main man, and then in his, just didn't amount to anything. And here he is trying to make something of his life so that when this little girl shows up, that's his chance to do something, And so it's been a lot of roles like that, of these guys who are given second chances or who have something to prove. A lot of stuff like that, which is interesting to me, because I think if you're there's really two kinds of guys you can play. One is the dude who saves the world, which is fun, and I still have a good, decade to do that if I wanted to. And the other one is the guy who could have saved the world but didn't. And then you ask yourself, well, why? Why didn't you do that?
Now, Christopher, you've hit the nail on the head in this certain situation, and your career has been very interesting to the Hallmark Channel, where you've had some interesting co-stars for sure that you've worked with, Christopher, and one really, really big star, to say the least. I don't know if anyone's mentioned that on an interview, but that's got to be an amazing thing to see her career and where she is, and on television and everything now, in the paparazzi every second.
How amazing. So I had a chance to, my very first Hallmark film, right out of the gate. I worked with Meghan Markle, who we worked together in December of 2015, and then our movie came out February 2016. About a month later, she met Harry, and is now the Duchess of Sussex. And it is amazing. I was just in London filming something, and they've got her face on matchbooks, and they've got masks of her face that you can buy, and mugs and little dolls, and I mean there was even royal executive condoms with her and Harry's face on the box. I mean it was like the whole thing, and it's kind of extraordinary. I mean, and what's even crazier is we have the same agent, this guy Nick Collins.
Oh, really?
At Gersh, and he's known her since she was his first client. And so to know her and to see how very, very big the whole story has gotten is really it's awesome. And especially for her, because I think she's exactly the right person to have happened to. Because she was already a part of the UN. I think that she's she's somebody that is going to be a global ambassador. And I think it's right. I think it's a good fit. And of anybody, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. But it's a treat knowing her.
Oh, it's amazing. And so that's another one of your amazing stories. Your wife, again, is a celebrity as well. So it's really, really cool. Now, let's talk about Hallmark Channel's Pearl in Paradise. It's, again, going to be on August 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Hallmark Channel. One thing I want to say is the Hallmark Channel's blowing up, Christopher, with the Christmas movies and all these other movies. You have such a huge fan base. You know that with the Hallmark Channel. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're amazing fans, so loyal and so verbal as far as they love what they love and they talk about it and they share it. And the Hallmark Channel is amazing to work for. I mean, in Hollywood, to be able to work with a company that's not playing any games with you, saying, "Oh no, we love you, we're going to keep using you," and to almost be able to rely on, because think about it, actors, what we do for a living, we're like contractors. We're like dudes who will come in and fix your kitchen for you, but we have to win the bid, and so we don't get paid until we do the work. And so not knowing, and unless you have a series, you're sort of just out there in the wind, waiting for your next gig. And to know that Hallmark is a company that's at least twice a year or at least once a year, we're going to be able to count on this. It's a really lovely place to work in that way.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, they're awesome, and the fans are unbelievable. We were in Washington, D.C. last summer. So I was filming Condor, and it takes place in D.C., and so I took my wife and my kids. I wanted to go down and see D.C. and just kind of get a feel for the city itself. And we have a friend who's Lieutenant Governor of Arkansas, Tim Griffin. He's like the vice governor of Arkansas. And he's like, "Come on, guys, I want you to go to Capitol Hill with me. I want to take you underground. I want to meet you. I want to introduce you to people. I want to take you to the green room." We get in the green room to the Senate, like the Senate green room, which is where all the senators go before they get out there on the floor. And there's these two women that have worked there since the 50s, and they have pictures of them with every president since 1959 or 63 or some early time. They've been there forever. And Tim wants to brag on his friend, and he's like, this is Julianne. She was on Days of Our Lives, and they go, "Oh, we love that story," and they're talking about that, and this is Chris Palaha, and this is her husband, and he played, and like you, he was able to list off some very cool credits. And they were like, no, we haven't seen that. And then finally he goes, "Yeah, and he's on the Hallmark channel. He did Dater's Handbook with Megan Martin."
Yeah, you're a superstar because of that, Christopher. And you look at your list, it's amazing. But guess what? Hallmark Channel rocks. I can't believe we didn't get to talk about your co-star, Jill Wagner, who I love. I had a long interview with her before, and she was a great chat, and I would have enjoyed the talk. But everyone needs to check it out again. Pearl in Paradise, again, premieres August 18th, 9 p.m. Eastern. Everyone needs to check it out. And anytime, you all know the Hallmark Channel fans will check out anything, and it'll be awesome. And because it's family friendly, everyone needs to check it out, Christopher. And thanks for calling. And I love that conversation story about Meghan Markle and JFK. That was a lot of fun. And thanks again for calling and chatting with me. I appreciate it. We're back to the Neil Haley Show in the Total Celebrity segment, and I am excited to welcome to the show Robert Townsend. Robert, thanks for calling, and I just cannot believe I remember growing up watching Hollywood Shuffle and all the different things that you've been in, and it's just amazing to get the chance to talk to you today. How are you?
I am doing great. Just thank you for talking with me about this new project.
Oh, absolutely. We'll jump to it in 1 second. The one question I have, and this is a bigger fan than I'm a big fan of yours, but one of the biggest fans of yours, who's one of my colleagues, wanted to ask, what gave you the idea to make Hollywood Shuffle? What was the reason to do that?
Hollywood Shuffle started because I was having all these bad auditions in Hollywood. I was auditioning for drug dealers, pimps, runaway slaves. I mean, the first pimp audition I had, I just remember I called my mother, and she was so proud. "Baby, be the best pimp you can be." The whole church was praying for me. So I was like, this is not going to be good. And I decided, rather than get frustrated by what I was going through, I was like, let's make a movie about it. And that's when me and a young comedian named Keenan Ivory Wayans started to write what would be Hollywood Shuffle.
Well, and it's such an unbelievable film in a lot of ways because you tried to break barriers, and that's the big thing. And did you think it would inspire so many filmmakers, but also musicians and other artists because of this film? Yeah.
I was just, when I did Hollywood Shuffle, I was just telling my truth, and there's a part of me that was dying as an artist because when you're put in a box and you can't do what you feel like you can really do, you got to figure another way out. And Hollywood Shuffle, I just figured it out, and I decided to tell my story. And we shot that movie in 12 days over 2.5 years, and I used every nickel I had in the bank. And then when I ran out of that money, that's when I used my credit cards, and that may be part of, Hollywood history.
Everyone has to have that rock bottom point and be able to go for it. And you did it for sure, Robert. Going into thinking about the making of The Five Heartbeats, can you explain the film to our listeners and then why you decided to make a documentary about how this movie was made?
Well, The Five Heartbeats was my second movie, and a lot of people really, have really loved that movie. It's based on the Motown group, The Temptations, and it's based on the Dells. And when I created the film, it bombed at the box office, but then years later with television and DVD, it really caught on, and over 200 million clips have been shared worldwide from the film. So when people would stop me on the streets, they would always ask me questions about how I made the film and why I made the film and my creative process. And so I decided to do this documentary as a love letter, basically, to the fans that love the film. But as I got into making the documentary, I discovered that, wow, there's some really interesting stories behind the scenes. My creative process is really different, and wow, I should share this. And so it's one part masterclass as well, with a filmmaker trying to change Hollywood and create new images and the roadblocks that he comes up against.
And were you surprised that after it bombed at the box office that it got this cult following later on? Were you expecting that, or is that a surprise to you?
It was a total surprise because I think, in the documentary, the cast, we all talk about it because at that point I was like, all right, well, we did everything we could. I thought it was a great movie and forget about it. And then years later or months later, it hits DVD. And then everywhere I go on the streets, they go like, oh man, I love that movie. Oh man, I love that movie. And it was happening to all the cast. And everybody's going like, did they re-release it or something? What's going on? And it started to air on television. And then radio stations, TV stations started calling for more interviews. So the documentary is really a roller coaster ride because things that go wrong really turn out right, and things that you think are right turn out wrong. So it's this upside down Hollywood story. And if you love movies, you're going to love the documentary.
And that's definitely true. And especially if you're a filmmaker or some sort of producer or trying to break in the business, you have to watch what you went through, Robert, and the challenges you went through. You talked about just the challenges of making Hollywood Shuffle and then how that became such a great success. And then you see the ups and downs of this business and I guess in life. So it kind of all relates to life in so many ways as well, the ups and downs of what you do in a specific industry.
Well, the thing that I would say is that, yes, this is it's a documentary about how I, made a movie, but I think the themes of the film are really universal. It's like anybody who has an entrepreneurial dream. What does it take to give birth to your dream? And I think when you watch this documentary, it's really me taking a concept, and that concept could be owning my own business. It could be any universal, wish or dream. And how do you make it happen? And you see me pull every rabbit, every street hustle move, anything I can do to get this movie made. And in the end, I win. But you never know until the end if I'm going to win.
And you think about it, Robert, the challenge is how much easier it is today to make a film than it was when you did it. You must tell people that all the time, right? With all these independent films out there now where independent was like, come on now, you're going to try to make a film. It's a completely different game than when you did it.
Well, it was a totally different game because back then you had to shoot with film, and film was very expensive. And so I shot Hollywood Shuffle with a leftover film. Like people would shoot a magazine of film back then was 10 minutes long. And if you had a 7-minute scene, you had 3 minutes of film left over. And I used that 3 minutes, and I'd have to, so the whole process was very expensive. Now people can shoot on their iPhones, they can edit on their computers. The only thing that's going to stop a new generation of filmmakers is fear. And I think that's what stops anybody in life from really obtaining their dreams and their goals is fear. And so the documentary, you kind of watch me, there's moments where I get scared and I'm afraid. And then you see me, and I see me as well, I become fearless. And I just go like, whatever's going to happen, I'm going to try. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go the extra mile. And I think, for all the dreamers in the world, it's a lesson in tenacity.
Yes.
If you really want your dream, what are you willing to give up to get it?
And that's so true. And it's an inspiring thing for me today, Robert, to go and hear that from you and as an entrepreneur myself and see, hey, you know what? You never give up. Even when there are tough days, you got to get up and keep going. And you're inspiring me today for sure. Robert, again, one night only. It's going to be in theaters, right, on Monday. Is that correct?
Yeah. If you want to get tickets for it, go to fathomevents.com. And if you don't know how to spell fathom, go to Making the Five Heartbeats, Google it, and Google Robert Townsend, and you'll see all the information. You can go to my Twitter page. I'm verified, Robert _ Townsend, or Instagram, and it'll direct you to where to get tickets.
And it's amazing also all the other projects you have going on, and you're in the news in so many other areas as well, Robert. So people just have to Google you and see what other projects are going on with you, right? And so we could talk for hours and all the things going on.
I mean, you know, I'm doing a bunch of different television series, directing, I'm writing, I'm producing. I did the new series on Oprah's network called Love Is. Did episode number 2, working on Black Lightning, just sold the pilot to BET. And Keenan and I are currently working on the Broadway show for the Five Heartbeats. So a lot going on.
You had a lot to do with Keenan's success for sure, and then and the Wayans for sure. So it's amazing to hear all about Hollywood Shuffle and how challenging it was, and then everyone needs to check out the Five Heartbeats. All right, thanks again. I appreciate you coming on, Robert, and take care. We're back to the Neil Haley Show in the Total Celebrity segment, and I'm excited to welcome the program celebrity Ben Robson of TNT's Animal Kingdom. Ben, thanks for calling. We're getting to the season finale, but I wanted to say the first question is, you guys have some great fans, don't you? I see the Facebook fan page really blows up, and people just love this show.
Yeah, we've got some amazing fans. Actually, I mean, it's been pretty incredible to watch the growth as well through the seasons. But yeah, I mean, this year even down at Oceanside, just from the local bit to just even going down sort of around the streets and everything, it's been really amazing to see the growth and just the dedication and loyalty that us Cody boys have managed to find. It's been pretty special. So yeah, we love our fans.
Ellen Barkin's character is vicious. We all know those moms, right? That, oh my gosh, you don't want to cross her ever. And that's the kind of character she plays.
What type of mums do you mean? I haven't met that many Smurfs in my life, but yes, you're right, not to be crossed for sure.
Protecting, all that, but that's good you've not met those kind of moms, but meaning characters, the mommy dearests of the world and things like that. You never know when she's going to snap, and never know she's going to protect you guys or she's going to protect her own interest. That's the other part that's tough of her being your mom, your TV mom, right?
100%. I mean, yeah, I joke in terms of how many people know parents like Smurf, but I guess on the side that you're talking, it is. I mean, she's very manipulative, which she plays out in many ways. Whether it's sort of playing how she sort of loves us and how she'll play us off one another to get things that she wants. I mean, I think she's just an absolute masterclass of manipulation. So it's difficult because I don't think you really ever know when she's telling the truth and when she's potentially lying to you. So it makes for a very confusing relationship, I think, each one of the sons. And obviously it plays us off one another, which makes it difficult for almost the sons to believe a word that they're saying to each other, because no one knows who's telling the truth and who's not, which inevitably leads to these really fascinating conflicts and dynamics between the whole family. But yeah, she's as good as they come with that. But then I don't think she would have got to the position that she would have, that she is at currently if she hadn't have been such a genius at manipulation herself.
Who to trust, Ben? Who to trust? That's the biggest problem in this. When you're part of a crime family, who are you going to trust? And you could end up dead. That's the problem, right? In this, you choose a life of crime, and the cops could be dirty. The people that you're dealing with could be dirty. You never know. And then if you owe money, look out. And that's pretty much the show in so many ways, that you don't know. You got to watch your back every second, and there's no protection, and you don't know who's your friend and who's your enemy.
Absolutely, and I think you said it perfect yourself. I think when you don't know who to trust and the ultimate consequences of life, it really has you living on edge the entire way through. And I think that's really what makes it such fascinating watching. And especially for my character, who Craig Cody, who lives very much, in the moment, and which is what gets him into trouble. I think for him, it's probably one of the only ways to cope. Like, it's his coping mechanism for releasing all that sort of crazy amount of tension that he's constantly living around in such a unpredictable family. I mean, you really have no idea who's going to be pulling a gun on you or looking for payback, or whether it's the cops trying to, impress the law on them. So it does become quite a high stakes show, and lots of drama in it, which also, I think that's what we do such a good job with the heist on it. I think you really get a sense of that beat by beat moment of everything that's going on, and then it's only when you sort of snap out the heist that you realize at times it's not that much different when they haven't got a gun pulled to their head at any point during the show. So yeah, it is. I think when you're constantly living in fear of getting caught or someone catching up with you for payback or living on the edge, it definitely leaves quite an imprint on these characters, with a mother who's manipulating left, right, and centre. So you do have some pretty damaged characters, which have very, very interesting dynamics with one another.
Ladies, that you are a ladies' man, and you also are into drugs too much. Two things that can get you into trouble, right, Ben? For sure, both of those. I
would agree, and they seem to come hand in hand with most of Craig's life. So I think he inevitably is pulling himself out of another position that he's got into from his own making. But as I said, I think everyone has to have their own way of blowing off steam, and I think he definitely has a very sort of addictive quality in his behavior, and he goes right off the deep end until he pretty much hits complete self-destruction. So he definitely starts mixing all pleasures of life over a night, or even over a season, to be honest. He can almost spend the rest of it trying to get back out of the hole he's dug for himself.
And your mom gets upset. So what should we expect coming in the season finale without giving anything away, Ben, for all of your fans and everything? Yeah.
Yeah, so the end of the season, I mean, look, it's obviously been such a crazy season with everything that's gone on in terms of where everyone's been trying to find their place in the family, trying to get back things that are owed to others without trying to drop any spoiler alerts if people are too far behind. And what we do is we have this incredible knitting of the season where we really sort of start seeing new positions of hierarchy within the family, and reestablishing sort of positions of it as well, where really everyone it's sort of a new Cody family by the end of it, after what they've been through, and even the sort of threats that have been going on throughout the season sort of seem to have their own positions as change, and the rest of it, which really will lead up to a pretty climatic finale, which should be fun to watch.
Exactly. August 21st, 9 p.m. Eastern on TNT. Animal Kingdom. Ben, I know we all can catch up with you. Just go and check you out on social media in different terms. And I think that ultimately the character you play and the boys, you guys got a lot of fans that really like to watch you, and just keep up the great work of what you're doing, Ben. And thanks again for calling. Everyone needs to tune in again to Animal Kingdom and catch up too, right, Ben? There's ways of catching up as well, on demand, different things.
Plenty of ways of catching up, yeah.
And that's important. All right, well, good talk to you, Ben. Best of luck. Thanks for coming on the show.
You too. Take care. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We're back to the Neil Haley Show in the Total Celebrity segment, and I always love talking to this guy, especially about Sharknado. I really got my oldest daughter hooked on Sharknado. She says, I want to catch up and watch all the episodes, all the movies with you, Dad. She's 13, and she's really into it. She says, well, if you and your mom are watching it together, because some of our kids are a little too young to watch it, then I'm going to just catch up on Netflix. I'm like, wow, this has gone so fast, and now she's 13. So I'm excited to welcome to the program Anthony C. Ferrante, Sharknado creator. Anthony, thanks for calling. And this is the kind of stories you hear about all the time, people that are hooked on these movies, right?
Yeah, no, and that's the other thing too that's very interesting is that we have we have an audience that's from 8 to 80, but there's a lot of kids that love this movie, and that's the last audience originally when we did the movie that we thought would fall in love with it. And so, we've been very conscious that the kids are viewing these movies. And yes, people's limbs are getting ripped off and there's shark kills and all that stuff, but there's a wholesomeness to it. There's a sort of a weird family values to these movies. And there's this silliness and this sort of stream of consciousness that I think kids really like about it. And I went to a convention last year, and, I signed autographs for like 2.5 hours, and a lot of them were kids, and they knew every single thing about these movies. So we've always realized we had an obligation, and we needed to make sure that, we try to be positive, and we try to, kind of have a message a little bit about these things. And that's kind of the coolest part about the franchise. And you just said it, you get to watch this with your kid, she likes these films, and there's not a lot of questionable things in Sharknado.
No.
It's just complete and unadulterated silliness.
It kind of reminds me of like The Naked Gun back in the day and movies like that, Anthony, that you're kind of bringing back in certain ways with the sci-fi portion of it. Where these funny movies that aren't out there anymore.
I think that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the airplane model in the sense that, everything is played straight, and yet the concept is ridiculous. So you have this concept where, the characters think that they're in a normal movie, yet there's sharks with tornado destroying cities and doing ridiculous things. And I think that's been the anchor to it. There are a lot of movies similar to Sharknado where everything is just completely over the top, and all the characters just being silly and, making fun of it, fully aware that they're making fun of it. So, we take the concept seriously, and then we put the humor in the ridiculousness of it. When, you have, in time travel, when you have Tara Reid's severed robotic head being a driving narrative thrust of the movie, there is a little ridiculousness to it, but we play it straight. There's a scene in the Camelot section where they're discussing something, and that's so ridiculous, but they're playing it as if, someone cheated on somebody else. And that's Sharknado. It's like you take something that is ridiculous and doesn't make any sense, and you play it straight.
And that's such a key point to what you do, Anthony, and I wish that there were more movies like this. And the question I'm asking again is, are you sad this is going to end? This is it for the run. I know it'll be playing forever on Sci-Fi, but do you wish that there were more movies?
No, look, I always say, I've lived through 2 final Friday the 13th. I know that, nothing ever dies, nothing ever goes away, but I also am happy that I got to end it, and I got to end it we got to end this movie on our own terms. I was involved in 6 films from the beginning with the same cast, the same story. There hasn't, we followed the same storyline. I would feel weird if I didn't do one of them and then it ended. So to be able to be the person that puts a fork in the story, and I 2 movies ago, I knew how I wanted it to end. I knew exactly the scene and what it would be, and we got to do that. So yeah, there's a little sadness, and it's a little bittersweet, but I think that it's more satisfying to know that I got to finish it with the same team that we started it with. And, that doesn't happen. It very rarely happens. And to have the filmmaker from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, that never happens either. So that's the part that I'm proud of, being able to do this and to finish it on our own terms.
And so, Anthony, this is like Shark Week, but this is Sharknado Week. What should we expect the rest of the week in programming, especially leading up to the big film on Sunday?
Well, so far we've had Meg and Santa Jaws, and tonight a buddy of mine, Jose Montesitos, his film Frenzy is going to air. And then on Saturday night, my other friend, Mark Atkins, who also was our DP in the LA portion of Sharknado 6, his film Six-Headed Shark Attack airs, which is essentially what you think it is, a six-headed shark. So you have all these crazy movies, and then you have the last Sharknado, It's About Time, on Sunday, and people are just going to have a blast. Look, the world is such a weird place right now. To be able to turn on the TV and know that you're not going to be, inundated with stuff that's telling you need to do this, or this is horrible, or this is that. It's a movie designed for you to get together with the family, have a barbecue. It's the Super Bowl of sci-fi, and it'll make you smile. And that's all we want to do, is we want to make people happy for 2 hours. And we've done that for the last 5 years and for 6 movies, and we get to do it again. And I hope if anybody that loves these movies, we get them to shed a little tear at the end.
Yes. Absolutely. And can we catch up to all the films? Are they going to be airing again on Sci-Fi before the final one?
They have been airing each movie every night of this week. So like Sharknado 1 was Monday, 2 is last night, night 3, 4, 5. And then on Sunday, it's going to be a marathon leading into Sharknado 6. And that's the other thing that's great about having the same person be involved as the director of all 6 films, is that there's continuity. Like I'm the tone police. You know, I know these movies inside out. And whenever someone says, "Oh, we need to do that," no, we can't do that. And there's callbacks, and there are things that you know, if you know these movies, you're going to go, "Oh my gosh, that's the best thing ever."
Exactly.
That's just glorious.
So
and I think that's the fun part about it. There's something I've always wanted to do. Like there's something that people always had questions about something in the first movie. It's like, well, why is this here? Because Finn wasn't doing this, and I don't understand why this is part of the movie. And I go, you know, when we're doing this film, I'm going, well, you know what? We're gonna answer that question. We're gonna actually do something about it. And so there's a completely, wholly unexpected moment in this film, and you really have to know the first movie to totally like, that's what they're doing. That's cool. And Back to the Future, the other thing too, Back to the Future is a huge, obviously, influence on these movies.
Yes.
I mean, I think Back to the Future is a perfect movie, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it gets better and better with age. And the other 2 movies are just as good. They're just amazing. And I think I always loved about Back to the Future Part 2 is the fact that they got to go back into, you know, the first movie and look at things from a different perspective. And I won't confirm or deny that we might be doing something kind of similar at some point in Sharknado 6, The Last Sharknado.
All right. Well, fantastic, Anthony. What's new for you after this? Are you going to just kind of take a break for a second, a breather, or you have any other projects coming up?
I'm developing a TV show called Faraway Canyon that we're going to be taking it out shortly, and that is going to. I hope that's the next big thing. It's really fun. It deals with the atomic age monsters from the 1950s, and it's based on a comic book. It's just great. It's a fun project. I'm excited to see that come to life once we go out to pitch. And I've got a couple other movies that are in the hopper. So it's kind of whatever goes next. I like to keep busy, and I enjoy making movies. And I've had a great ride, and I want to continue to kind of tell cool stories and make people either scared or happy or sad.
And it's a sad thing for me, Anthony. This is the 3rd year I've interviewed you for the 6th Sharknado 5 and 4. I promoted all 3 of those, and you've really hooked me on Sharknado. So I look forward to watching all of them, and everyone needs to connect with you social media. You're so involved social media wise with your fans, and you understand how important that is, Anthony. And everyone needs to tune in Sunday, but keep staying tuned on Sci-Fi to find out more information on the Sharknadoes and social media wise. So thanks again for calling, Anthony. We're back to Neil Haley Show on the Total Celebrity segment. I'm excited to welcome to the program Nicholas D'Augusto. And Nicholas is from Trial and Error Lady Killer. Nicholas, thanks for calling, and how are you?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great, man. It's exciting. It's an exciting time, and I'm really, really happy to be here and get to talk about it.
Absolutely, Nicholas. Before we get to Trial and Error, Lady Killer, again, Season 2, I wanted to talk to you about I am a Heroes nerd, the biggest Heroes nerd in the world, and you and I'm having Zachary Quinto on my show later today, so this is like the Heroes Superstar Day.
Oh wow, really? Zach is coming on your show
to promote something from history. So I'm like laughing my butt off on this when I saw that I remember you from Heroes, and that experience working with that crew. It's just, why is Heroes gone? It's just, you have so many fans, you know that, right? From Heroes.
Yeah. It was really special for me, especially at the time. But it was a very special show, and it was a special gig for me personally because I came in that second season, and it was the number one show on television, and I had a really important role. Thinking about it now, it kind of reminds me of Gotham in the sense that it has this really big cast of really cool characters, lots of cool characters. But that first season was just a monumental season of television for that show, and real big hit. But what ended up happening, and it feels like ages ago, but the writer's strike happened in the middle of season 2. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
But it cut the season 2 short. And it really hurt Heroes because I could spend the entire interview talking about this, but basically, there were certain storyline issues that became unresolved. And I think it was very difficult for them to find their footing. It was an interesting time in television because the writer's strike was really a difficult time out here, and it affected the way people watch television. And that's one of the stories of Heroes, to be honest with you.
And that's such an interesting story, Nicholas, in itself, because, again, it did make a comeback one more time. They brought another Reborn, and they left us hanging. And, again, but it's the amazing people that ended up going to great careers in so many other ways. It's just, it, again, showed how talented a cast it was from season 1. Some of the just unbelievable, really top-notch talent that grew from Heroes, for sure.
Yeah, and Quinto is I know Zach. He and I have a lot of mutual friends. He and I are friends, and he and I have been doing this around each other for a long, long time because we're about the same age. And he is just such an extraordinary talent, as everyone knows at this point, although not everyone knew it back then. And, boy, when he came on as Siler, I think was his name, right?
Yes, Siler. Oh, yes.
And he was... he exploded onto the scene with that role. He was so good in that role. And it was the jumpstart to his very huge career. So yes, totally, man. It's an interesting time looking back on it for sure.
And Nicholas, I understand Trial and Error, Lady Killer season 2, just because, again, Kristen Chenoweth was on my show yesterday and she was a sweetheart. So I watched the trailer. This is the funniest show. I cannot wait to watch it because the way the trial and the craziness, it seems like it's going to be a really good show for sure. The season 2 storyline.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for making it a Trial and Error week on your show. I appreciate it. Kristen is amazing. I cannot say enough positive things about her. She's just such an amazing person and an amazing talent, and she brought so much to our show. And she was so important to our show because I don't know if everyone knows all of your listeners knows the conceit of our show, but every year we have this core cast, which I'm involved with, and my assistants, Dwayne and Ann, who are Stephen and Sherry, and then Jama plays Carol Ann Keene, this core East Pet crew. But then every year we have a new defendant that comes in. And the first year was John Lithgow, and the second year is Kristen Chenoweth, and their cases begin and end in each of their seasons. And so every season you watch a Trial and Error will be a new case, and it'll end at the end of that year, and we'll get a new star the next season. But Kristen was really important in establishing, who are the kinds of actors that will follow John in this show. And she's just, she's already a legend, and she's just such immensely talented performer. It was just a joy being with her, man.
Absolutely, Nicholas. And I love your character as well, just from seeing the little clips. It just seems so funny. And I think everyone loves court cases. You know what the famous court case I always remember is O.J. Simpson. That was the one where I was first really exposed to trial and learning about a trial. And what makes this show so funny is the fact of the court and how everything is mocked. Like, for example, in the trailer, it talked about the $10 for her bail, and then the judge pays it. I mean, that's priceless for sure, Nicholas.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you respond to that part of the show. It's a really important part of our show. I think that I don't get to take credit for this part because it's our writer Jeff Astroff and our other co-creator Matt Miller these guys are in our entire writing staff. They're just really, really funny. And so they're doing two things at once. They're sending up these legitimate crime documentaries, these murder documentaries. Last year was The Staircase, this year The Jinx. And so if you're familiar with either of those, you watch our show and you will see so many satirized points.
Yes.
But also it's like so we have this real court case going on, though. You know, we have a legitimate court case going on. So there is real drama. There is real detective work. But on the other side, it's like watching Airplane. You know, it's like watching Naked Gun. It's like watching Mel Brooks movies. It's really funny and really outrageous. And you know, they do an amazing job of threading those two together. And I do think that's what makes our show special.
Last question. Kristen brought this up about John Lithgow. What is the premise? Was he on last? Was he the one that was last year's show, John, or is how he involved in this show?
John will not be in season 2. He was season 1.
Yeah.
In the same way that Kristen is all season 2, John was all season 1. Now, there's a possibility that if we get fortunate enough to do 3, 4, 5 seasons, that those two people will come back and sort of live in the world briefly. But the show really hinges on every year a new star defendant, and that's really how the show is set up. I think that's what keeps the show fresh. It's sad on some levels because, you know, I would love to be around John as much as I can. I'd love to be around Kristen. But, you know, if John was this season, I wouldn't get Kristen. So it's an amazing, for me, it's a dream because I get to work with another legendary actor every year.
So did John do some of the writing last year, Nicholas? That's the question I was asking. Is he behind the scenes with the first season of Trial and Error? How was that working?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't understand that you were asking about writing. No, he did not do any of the writing. Nope.
Okay.
You know, the writing staff came to him. And then they write the show to him. But, you know, the pilot script that John read, he read and was given to him, and he signed on to the show.
I got you. I just wanted to know. I didn't know if he was behind the scenes. I'm just learning all this stuff. I didn't know about Trial and Error till I interviewed Kristen. And then when I interview guests, Nicholas, I become like we're friends. Even though, you know, it's a short little interview, I become a fan of the show. So it's a perfect way to get me hooked and say, hey, I'm going to go watch this now, and I'm going to be tuning in because I always have to binge watch. And always what happens when I try to binge watch on, like, you know, Netflix or something else, here's my problem. Sometimes the internet doesn't run well. We have the kids mess up our system for that. So I just jump on and say, okay, it's time to watch NBC because I have a lot of favorite shows there. Best place we can connect with you, Nicholas. Great job and all the projects you're doing and the success of your acting. But where can people connect with you? Where's the best place they can go?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Nicholas D'Agosto, which is just my full name. Nicholas has an H in it, so NicholasDagosto, no apostrophe. I'm at Nicholas D'Agosto on Instagram. I'm on Facebook there too. And, you know, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you being a fan, jumping in. You know, I don't think you'll regret it. It is really fun. And I will just say to everybody out there, you can watch on NBC Live, which is where everybody prefer you watch, but you can watch on NBC.com the following day. You can watch on Hulu the following day. And you can watch all of season 1, I think, today.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
They've been running it for the last, you know, week or whatever. They've been running it for the last month, but you can go back and watch all of season 1 on Hulu if you want to do that, as well as purchasing it and things like that. But if you have Hulu, you can catch up and do a binge of season 1 before you get ready for season 2.
Well, continued success, Nicholas. Thanks for coming on the show and best of luck.
Experience history in action as the Frontier Militia camps on the grounds of the Oliver Miller Homestead, located off the Circle on Corrigan Drive in South Park. On Saturday, September 8th, from 4 till 7:30 p.m., you are invited to watch the militia set up their camp. You might be drafted to help with setting up the tents, gathering wood, or carrying water. On Sunday, September 9th, from 1:30 till 4:30, you will learn the duties of the Western Pennsylvania Militia and see these frontier soldiers drill, witness firing demonstrations, and learn how the soldiers prepared their food. Children will help the militia by rolling cartridges and will be taught the drills that the militiamen used. The militia was formed to protect the frontier and met regularly to drill and prepare to defend their homes in case of an Indian attack. They later became an important part of the Revolutionary War troops. Men of good health from 15 to 65 were required to report for service with their own weapons. The Miller brothers were part of the militia and were renowned as sharpshooters who fought at the Battle of Saratoga. Admission for this special event is only $2. For more information, visit our website at www.olivermillerhomestead.org.
One of the things we do at BPTV is encourage our producers to film on location. Not only does shooting on location give our producers the opportunity to take advantage of their subject matter, filming in different locations gives each program its own distinct flavor. This also helps anyone who's flipping through the channels avoid confusion when they turn on BPTV. With around 500 programs produced at BPTV each year, the last thing we want people to think is that we're only broadcasting one program. So, you need to come into BPTV to pitch your TV show, but in terms of where you actually end up taping your show, the sky's the limit.
I think film and television in general is a very discouraging industry. It takes a lot of years of pounding the pavement, calling people, finding your ends. You're gonna carry a lot of heavy cable, get dirty a lot, and find your way in. With the limited amount of resources out there and the limited amount of opportunities, there's a fantastic resource right here. And it's public access, it's free of charge. Anybody can come in and gain that experience. Dave absolutely loves to help people, never said no to us growing up. Anything we wanted to do, we were able to do here. The first year I was here, I would just sign on for different projects, like Stump the Students was a show that I worked on quite frequently. It was a game show. We would just come up with our own little ideas, mostly sketches, a lot of school projects, a lot of classes when we'd have to do a project on a story we read or something like that. I would always ask if we could do a video as our project instead, and we would typically do it through Dave. One of my favorite things we did was one of the simplest things we did. It was put together in an afternoon. It was something we wanted to do for fun. We were playing around learning Final Cut Pro, learning how to do linear editing, and we decided to do something in reverse. So we filmed me, actually, I think it was, running around the building out here, jumping off walls backwards, running around backwards, and played the whole thing in reverse. It was really simple. It was, corny. We just did it for fun, but for a couple weeks after that, people kept coming up to me at school like, well, how'd you do that? We were more exposed to our student body than we felt we were, not having an association with any extracurriculars of the school. It was fun to see how, even though we were doing it on our own, it was still making its reach to Bethel Park, and it was still something that we were getting feedback for, positive feedback from. And that was really nice. I would say that BPTV is one of the greatest creative resources this community has, and I would absolutely encourage anyone with any interest in production to come here and learn from Dave and take their ideas and turn them into something. If I hadn't been here at BPTV, I wouldn't have advanced at the rate I did in my industry. I wouldn't have had the passion for my industry nurtured the way it was here. I don't think that I would have pursued it because I don't think I would have had as clear a picture of what was available to me in this industry unless I had come here and gotten that first-hand experience prior to having to make the decisions that you have to make whenever you're graduating from high school. Opportunity really only comes to people who establish a lifestyle to seize it. And this is the kind of place where you can seize an opportunity and change what you want your future to be.